Hey, we're back. We're editing a episode 4 to the Jane Doe series that we're doing about Shotgun Jane Doe. It's not all this this YouTube channel is going to be about, but I did want to make these my first videos before I got into some of the fun stuff we're going to cover, because it really means something to me. I grew up in this time. I was a teenager, or maybe in my early 20s when this happened, and it meant something to me. Knox County at that time, Knoxville City, crimes like this, oddly, were not prevalent. You know, now we have a lot of shootings and stuff, but back in those days, it really shocked the neighborhood and stuck with me. And that's why I've researched this lady for so long. For those of you who haven't watched the first 3 videos in this series, you need to go back and do that. You're probably lost right now. Shotgun Jane Doe was a young lady who was shot to death June 1st, 1987 in Knoxville, Tennessee. We know who shot her, how she was shot, where she was. We know everything. What we don't know is who she is. She's still an unidentified female here in Knoxville. And the first 3 episodes of this series cover it. You can go back and watch those 3, or this is really not going to make a lot of difference to you. You're really not going to understand it. But what I wanted to do in this 4th series, kind of as a afterthought, was take the drive that the 2 men and our unidentified female may have taken that night, to give you an idea of what it was like. A lot of times you hear this happen in Knoxville, Tennessee, or whatever, and you think, well, you know, fairly good sized town, you know, they have a lot of crime or one thing or another, and that really wasn't the case. And it was a lot more rural than what you're probably thinking. Most of the roads at that time have been replaced. The 2-lane roads are now 4-lane roads, or even more. But I just thought it might be interesting to take that drive and get in your head kind of what we're talking about, and some of the turns to prove to you, as it did to me, this was not just people that ended up at a house to rob. So, with that being said, we're going to watch a video of this ugly guy right here, that's me, is going to drive the route and give you a little commentary on the way, and show you some of the sights. Alrighty, let's push play here. So what I thought we'd do today was have a look at the route that they would have taken once they reached Knoxville. This is Interstate 640, which would have been recently opened at the time of this happening. 640, I think this part of 640 that joined it in would have opened, I think, in 1981, 82, 83, right in there. So this would have been a fairly new road for them. So this would have been the most direct route from I-81 and the rest stop that our victim was picked up at. Now, granted, they could have taken some back roads. To my right is a road called Dutchtown Road, which leads to the same place. But most likely, that time of night, they would have come this way. And I wonder, you know, what was going through her mind at this point. Was she just looking for a ride? And I get back to the Tina Farmer part that we covered in another video. Was she just trying to get to Knoxville to link up with this Tina, if Tina existed? I don't know. So I wondered what her thinking was. Now, we know she'd been drinking because her blood alcohol level was 0.13. But, you know, we know she had all the injuries, was probably addicted to painkillers. You know, you're hurting that bad, you're walking, you're out on your own, you're going to try to numb the pain. Now, what we're coming about right here, we're coming to where I-640 and I-75 come together. Now, I-75 travels north to south. If we go south right here, on the left side of that truck up there, goes straight to downtown Knoxville. It's about the only thing left down through there. But if I'm correct, they would have come this way and linked up with I-75, which, you know, don't get the wrong idea in your head. We're not talking about a travel on I-75. This exit basically just skirts I-75 to the turnoff they would have taken. Now, the turnoff they would have taken would have been Merchants Drive. It's only half a mile out through here. And bear in mind, at that time, none of this was here. This was just fields and a couple of small buildings, maybe some older houses on the side of the interstate. But they would have come down here and taken this exit. Now, the Merchants Drive exit at that time, what you see now, I mean, there's a Cracker Barrel, there's all kinds of Starbucks and stuff. None of this was here. This would have been a one-lane exit. This would have been a two-lane road. So it's changed so much since back in that day. So they would have taken a right here, and bear in mind this was just a two-lane road, so there wouldn't have been a turning lane or anything like that. And right here, they would have taken a left at the first road, which would have been Central. Now, Central runs, again, north and south. If I had turned the other direction on Central, I would have ended up in downtown Knoxville. Central runs right through the old part of Knoxville, what we call the Old Town. None of these motels were here. This would have been a much smaller road than it was at the time. This would have been very rural. Now, coming up through here, they would have then taken the next right. Now, look at all the turns that I've taken from this point. This tells me they knew where they were going. They had a purpose. And the purpose, to me, was not to rob a house. There's tons of houses around here they could have robbed. The purpose was to get to where one of the men was living, which was only right down the street from where Jane Doe was killed. And very little of that ever made it in the news media, that one of the two men lived next door to the person they were going to rob. And that's unusual to me in a robbery aspect too. Robbers generally don't rob their next door neighbors because they say, hey, that's the guy that lives in the White House right over there. That seems kind of silly to me. But, you know, criminals aren't the smartest bunch. You know, it's possible. But I look at what's improbable and try to go the other way. And I think it's improbable that they were there to rob a house. Like I said in another video, the prospect that they were beating on the door, yelling, he's got a knife, that doesn't seem like a very good ruse to get in a house. Now, what we've got right down here is a sharp curve. If you Google map this, you'll see the sharp curve where that truck's getting ready to pull out. It's an intersection. But our road goes on to the left. And turning here. Now this is the old Starkey house up here. That's what all this was named for. This area was called Starkey Hills. And that was the original Starkey house. It's been redone. It's a true mansion. She was killed right down the hill from that mansion. I'll show you where here in just a second. Now we're going to take the next left, and we're going to be on a road at that time was so small that if two cars passed, one of them had to stop. The whole road was the size of this little bridge right here. Now when we get to right here, right past this cedar tree, This cedar tree can be seen in some of the crime scene photos. It was a lot smaller at the time. But right here, right about where that yellow, I guess that's probably a utility pole of some reason, some sort of utility marker. All this was filled in for the subdivision you see up the hill. But right there's where the house sat. That's where the murder house was. It sat right back off the road, kind of up a little hill. Now, with that being said, if you look right over there, you'll see a white stone building. That's where the man supposedly lived. He lived in that building. Other cases say he lived in a trailer. You know, I've heard it both ways. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. But either way, at that point of time, let me get you a better look at the white stone, because I don't want you to think it was that white building. Now bear in mind, there was nothing here but a field. Right over there's the white stone building. That's the white stone building that some people, because they said it was a garage, and that was the only garage building here at that time. Now the barn was here, but now right out from it, right over here in that bottom, right next to that utility tower that's there now, there was a trailer. Either way, she could have been there or she could have been there when she got away from the men. My prospect and my hypothesis is that she was running, and she ran to the nearest house, and at that time the only house here was that house. Now she could run on up the hill to the mansion, but she's going to go to the first house, I think. So she's running up through here. I think the two men jumped in a car and was chasing her, because after everything was said and done and the police were here investigating, right out here on the left side of the road, all this was nothing but just grown up thicket, similar to what you see back here. It's very similar to what that is now, but all this was that way. And right here, right past this curve, they found Percy Preston's car pulled over in the thicket in the weeds, and some attempt had been made to cover the car up with brush. It would have been about where this white house is right here. So that's it. I thought you'd like to have a look at the surroundings, although they've changed a lot since that day. I thought it would be good to get a perspective of just how close she was to the interstate when she was killed, but also how intricate the turns would have been to get here, telling me they were bringing her here, that this was not just random or whatever. They didn't come to me to rob a house. There were far more houses they could have robbed before they got here. So this is just something we wanted to add to it. Again, if you have any tips, ideas, comments, or whatever, nothing's too small. You can post them in the comments down below, or you can email me at shotgunjanedoe@gmail.com. No tips too small or insignificant. No ideas too outlandish. I mean, it may be something I've never thought of, or some of the others of us have never thought of. Or you can call the Tennessee Cold Case Squad at 865-215-3705. That's here in Knox County, Tennessee. Or email coldcase@knoxsheriff.org. Anything you can do to help, any sharing you can do of this video would be great. Get it out there to some other people and see if we can get this young lady identified. Again, make sure you watch all 4 episodes of this series. Get the full story of this young lady, and see if we can identify her, see if we can send her home. Thank you.